We want to know what makes our minerals different from everybody else's. So we're going to start out with a little bit of organic chemistry just to give us a background and definitions. The first thing I'd like to talk about is powers and the size of molecules. Because if we have a gap in our cell that's this big and we're trying to put an object this big in the cell, it doesn't work very well. And the way Mother Nature has made things, it isn't just a magnesium molecule out here and a calcium molecule out here and a zinc molecule out here. They have a tendency to bond together in large clusters. So let's take some look here. We know that the average gap in the cell wall is somewhere around 10 to the minus 6th power. And we know that a single water molecule is 10 to the minus 10th power. Now the thing to understand about powers is each number smaller represents 10 times. So if you have a soccer ball, 10 times smaller would be a golf ball. So each number is a significant measurement. So one of the reasons why bacteria usually enter in your body either orally or on a cut is that they're typically larger than this boundary end of the cell wall. And we understand that viruses, being smaller, can be absorbed into your body because they literally are smaller than that boundary. But clusters of minerals that come from sand, silt, and clay are typically significantly larger, up to 100 times larger than that gap in the cell wall. So we're requiring our digestive system to break it down via the enzymes and the acids to make it small enough to get into the cell. And I don't know how you are, but I'm not very good at digesting rocks. But plants do a wonderful job at it. So where do we get our minerals? We get them in the state of Utah, which in the United States is known as the mineral state. Millions of years ago, there was rich vegetation through this whole region. And what makes this particular spot unique is that there's over 77 minerals in the soil. Now there's lots of places where we can go and get minerals, but really I want to emphasize makes this spot unique is the number of minerals in the soil. Gold and zinc and calcium and magnesium, the whole spectrum. So millions of years ago, this vegetation and the root system in the ground absorbed these minerals. And the plants would die and the vegetation would fall down. There was flooding, so the new minerals were reincorporated into the soil. Then there was an eruption and flooding, and a thin layer of limestone capped all this vegetation. And this stone area up here, so you get a measurement, it's about 6 feet, and this is about 30 feet or so. Each inch to inch and a half represents 100 years of vegetation of all these 77 minerals. And the limestone prevented the minerals in this humic material from being adulterated or polluted. Wouldn't you like to see it? Show people, some of this stuff. Now when you look at this material, I want you to notice that it's layered. It looks like it's like a tree, and you can see different levels and thicknesses throughout the stone. Now they say this is shale, but I'm going to do things here, and you tell me if you can go do this to the shale in your yard. Because this is still basically plant material. The different material, they get to actually hold it, it'll make messes. And it's just not what you picture when people say shale to you. So in my hand right here is probably 50 years worth of plant material. And then what we do is we take the minerals out of the material in a method called osmosis. Now every day you people do osmosis. In osmosis, you have a high concentration, in this case tea, inside of a tea bag. And before I put the tea in the water, there was no tea in the water. And when I put the tea in the bag in the water, then all of a sudden we have osmosis occurring. And if I leave the tea in here long enough, eventually there'll be a same concentration in the bag as there is in the water. We don't need chemicals to stimulate this or speed it up. We just allow time, temperature, and barometric pressure in a controlled environment. So if we kind of take some of this and we put it in here, and if we did shale that was in the nature way and we grind it up, this is what it looks like. Now it was a slow grind, and you can see how easily it breaks up. And the reason why we do this with our product is that it increases the surface space when we do the osmosis. Just like with any nutritional product, and I'm going to show you a brief little experiment in just a few minutes, that if we increase the surface space in our small intestines and colon with nutritional products, we're going to have greater absorption or availability. Okay. So then we basically create osmosis. So just like with the tea right now, the minerals that was in that material are now leaching into this water. And the leaching is occurring. The minerals are just going into the water. No chemicals. We don't have to add bleach or anything like that to the product to speed up the acid or other acids. If we had a more inferior product, we might have to do that. So after we give it enough time, we know and we measure the concentration, we actually know how much dissolved material is in the liquid. Now I'm making this look very simple, and I guarantee it's far more complex, so I don't want to encourage you to do this at home. So what we do is we start filtering out all the large remaining material. And with each batch, we test to make sure that we have consistency in the full spectrum mineral products. And we filtered this down to under a micron in size. So the particles that are in suspension are very, very small. Okay, who has the most? Let's see now. Kampai?
Kampai.
Kampai. So we have the plant-derived minerals, and then we can do lots of things. With EnGevity, we love making our products in liquid states. And there's actually there's science behind that. Because with what you heard previously with enzymes in the digestive system, the better the ability we have to spread out the entire nutrition throughout the large and small intestines, the greater the chance of the absorption. And those enzymes work as cofactors to help the absorption situation take place. So if we have a liquid and it goes through your digestive tract, it's able to coat and spread out effectively. Versus if we had pills, and even if we broke them down effectively within our digestive system, I should get Gene up here to do this. And it's mixed with water, we still don't get the same coating action. And capsules work better, but still not as good as liquid, because it breaks down easier and it's already in a powdered state. But we still have the challenge of what coats best. And that's why we like liquids in liquid states. So we take these minerals and we measure them. When they come from the lab and the facilities, they're at a concentration of 40,000 milligrams per liter. And as we, obviously the water is very important, so that we have a very complex water purification system. In fact, this particular one that's in Vista, California, if we had the packaging equipment, is licensed to do saline solution. And because I don't know what your water is like in your municipal systems, but in the United States, bottled water is very, very popular. And I guarantee the water we use to make the products is far cleaner than this. So what we're allowed to do is we take that concentrated solution and we can add additional vitamins, amino acids, other minerals, herbs, or phytonutrients to them. And our scientific board, headed by Dr. Wallach as well as Dr. Strauser and a wide number of professionals, have determined that the perfect absorption level of this full spectrum mineral product is about 18 to 24,000 milligram solution. So when we add the other phytonutrients to that 38 to 40 solution, we're able to dilute it down, get the ideal solution with the minerals, as well as having additional phytonutrients or just nutrients in general added to it. Now in the United States, there's no such thing as a pharmaceutical grade nutritional product. Pharmaceutical grade is reserved only for drugs. However, all our products are made in pharmaceutical licensed facilities, so they have the standards and the procedures of making drugs, but they choose not to and make nutritional products. This adds extra expense, but Dr. Wallach insists upon it because of the quality and the consistency of the product. Because I don't know if you know how much markup is in a traditional drug, but it usually starts around 2,000% over the cost of the raw material. And if we did that same markup with the mineral garden, you'd be spending hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of yen. But I want you to note the cleanliness of the pitcher. They're actually making an orange solution currently. And these two stainless steel tanks, not only do they have stirring mechanisms within the tanks, we push the fluid from one tank to another so it's like a martini shaker. And then once all the nutrients are in there, we seal the top of the tanks and it becomes a closed system so no other adulterations can fall into the batch. We make sure that no lint off the clothing or hair falls in the product because the staff is always wearing the proper uniform when they're in the clean rooms. Does anyone here know what the most common ingredient in household dust is? Anyone guess? Skin. And I assume you don't want skin in the product. So then it goes into the bottling room, and there again, please note the cleanliness. And with most vitamins and minerals and amino acids, oxygen is not a friend. It makes it rust, oxidize. So what we do is that we put a little bit of liquid nitrogen in the bottle just before we seal it that pushes all the remaining air out of the top of the bottle. Then we put the seal on it. And so when you open up the bottle, sometimes when you take the cap off, you'll see a real small little circle hole on the seal on top. That's actually a one-way valve that will allow any gas to escape, but will not allow anything to go in. And don't be surprised when you peel that safety seal off inside if you hear it psst a little. It's just one of the ways that you know for sure that there's no adulterations or foreign product getting into the bottle. Other companies aren't quite that way. In the United States, a company doesn't get inspected regularly. It's if they have a problem, they get inspected. Do you remember that slide that I showed you where we only had about 6 feet of limestone? That's a limited amount of pressure. It doesn't weigh too much. This particular spot up here, which isn't that far away from our mine, has hundreds of feet of stone on it, and the pressure is so much greater. And they call our product a lot like, they call their product a lot like ours. This is their raw material. It doesn't break. So I'll leave this up where you can see it, and they call it the same material, but you can imagine if we put it in water like we did ours, the chance of allowing osmosis with the minerals that come out goes down significantly. Other facilities, I went down to another one, and this was their facility with all the garbage on the outside, and they had just capped off the end, threw it in there, put water in it, put it in a bottle, and were selling it to people. It's not the quality control that Dr. Wallach wants by any shape or form. But these products are available in Japan if you wanted them. That one place that had this really good stuff, this stuff that we like to try to break at every lecture, and I haven't been able to yet, they have trouble getting the minerals out, so what they do is when they put it in there as long as they can, they then pump it outside into an open field, into a pool that's covered. And it allows the water to evaporate. But anything that's in the air can get in that product. And in case you don't notice, that's a cow right there, because they put it in the middle of a pasture. They also just pile the stuff all around their ground and allow the water to leach it. And if you think about it, if you allow rainwater to hit it, it just takes the minerals out and it's no longer in the material. But if you look at the water around here, it has a brown tint to it. That's because it has an iron-eating bacteria exposed in the area. So if you get a product of someone else other than ours, because you'll never see it in ours, and you look in the bottle and it's coated with a brown residue, you'll know that it's basically dead bacteria in the bottle that they didn't bother to remove. How many people in this room felt that American Longevity and EnGevity products have changed their life? I promise if you don't give up, everybody will be raising their hands. Thank you all for listening to me, and domo arigato.